Welcome back, friends. Today we are reviewing more of your Dynasty fantasy football trades that have been submitted to me through the Discord. If you're looking for a way to submit your trades for review, go ahead and click the link in the description for your free invite code to the Discord. We also do watch parties in there, weekly strategy sessions. You get access to all of my write-ups and my market movers for Dynasty and what I'm doing on a weekly basis in all of my listener leagues. You can keep up to date with all that information in the Discord below. But let's dive right in. We got 5 Dynasty fantasy football trades to go through with you guys today. The first one here, diving right in, is Jackson Dart on one side. Moving for the 2026 101, I have been given context on this trade, and yes, this is a Superflex PPR league. Now, I think the real key here is understanding that it's a Superflex league, and I know that 101 is very, very tempting. Jeremiah Love is out there. The hype train is already starting. Some people are saying he's better than Ashton Genty already. I can't wait to see what happens in the offseason and what people start trading for the 101 as rookie fever gets out of control. But I am going to say, guys, regardless of how high the rookie fever gets on Jeremiah Love, I think I'm going to be taking the Jackson Dart side here, and I will give you my reasoning. I know it's very tempting to buy the young running back with tons of upside, but I do think quarterbacks are actually significantly undervalued in Dynasty right now. One of my hypotheses for the offseason is that we're going to get a little bit of a correction in the quarterback market. I think just between the amount of injuries we've sustained this year and how grossly undervalued I feel like they've become in the Dynasty fantasy football market while still being your highest scoring asset, let's not forget, in a Superflex format, that if you can get a Jackson Dart, who's coming off a great rookie season, has tons of rushing upside, is getting key weapons like Malik Neighbors back in the system next year, Cam Scadaboo coming back next year, he gets a full year to develop as the starter throughout training camp. I think skies could be the limit for Jackson Dart, especially if they land a fantastic coach this year as well. Personally, he's one of those guys that in one of the startup drafts we did just the other day, a mock draft on this channel, if you want to go check it out with real Dynasty fantasy football players to see where the updated values are, Jackson Dart went in the 4th round. I personally think that's crazy low. I think he might even be a late 2nd round startup pick by the time the offseason rolls around, or maybe even the early 3rd round. Regardless, I think I am going to be leaning him over Jeremiah Love here, or the 101, whoever you want to take. And I know it's probably not the popular take, but I do think quarterbacks are grossly undervalued right now in Dynasty. So comment on this video if you disagree and you think that Jeremiah Love should be valued above Jackson Dart. But for now, I am going to roll with Dart. The next trade we got here is a 14-team Superflex PPR tight end premium. And I think the real key here, guys, is it's a 14-team league. And I understand how valuable some of these top pieces can be, like a Bijan Robinson. But I've been told that both of these picks are going to be mid-round picks. So 2026, 2027 should be around the mid. Obviously hard to predict 2027, but let's just assume that we're going to go with that value. I think confidently here, guys, I'm going to be taking the Judkins side. And I know Bijan currently sitting at running back 4 with 279 fantasy points on the season to date, giving you great production and still extremely young. However, Judkins has looked so encouraging in his age 21 season, just turning 22. On top of that, you're getting 2 extra first-round picks in a 14-team league. I can't even tell you how valuable those firsts are going to be to have in your starting lineup, especially when you're dealing with thinner rosters in such a deep format like a 14-team league that has a tight end premium. Personally, I think the value on the left side is just higher, and I do enjoy getting extra liquidity in these deeper formats. I find they wield a really big stick in the offseason and give you tons of flexibility to move around, whether you're on the clock during your rookie draft or you simply can capitalize on some of that rookie fever that we were talking about just a moment ago. But I'm curious what you guys are thinking on these trades, so make sure you comment each side of the trade that you would like for the 5 we review here. The next trade I got for you is a Superflex 12-team start 10 format. I know it's a little cut off on the image here, but that's what I was told. On one side, we have Jonathan Taylor, A.J. Brown, and Cortland Sutton for Zach Charbonnet, Emeka Egbuka, and Ricky Pearsall. And this is a tough one, guys, because you can obviously tell already that the team that's getting the left side is a contender, and the team that is getting the right side is a rebuilder, which is what they were saying in the Discord. I totally understand making this move if you're a contending roster and you wanted to move pieces off your roster. Say you're in a format that has a max points for draft position determiner, and you are just like, I need to get these points off my roster so that I can get a better draft pick. Now, I understand moving on from guys like Jonathan Taylor and A.J. Brown, but personally, this just is not enough for me. And I know people are probably going to debate me on this one because I know I'm a lot lower on Emeka Egbuka than the general Dynasty community is. I think my main reasoning on that is that, he started so hot. Baker was playing at an MVP level at the time. There was no Chris Godwin. Mike Evans was dealing with injury. He was just hot onto the scene, taking everybody's targets, really getting these big explosive plays before NFL defenses could get some tape on him and figure out how they wanted to defend some of the Buccaneers' offensive prowess. And that's why you even saw during that Seattle Seahawks game early in the season, I believe it was week 3, week 4, you had an absolute barn burner that was a 35-38 game where Egbuka was taking the top off the Seattle Seahawks defense. Have you watched that happen recently in the last 10 weeks from the Seattle Seahawks? I sure haven't. They look like the best defense in football. And so that's why always these early season spikes make me nervous, because defenses are raw. Defenses are rough. They have not hit their stride yet. And I think we were getting a lot of that mixed with obviously the upside that Egbuka was showing us. This is not to say that I don't think Emeka Egbuka has plenty of talent and can absolutely be a phenomenal dynasty asset to have and hold. I personally just think paying this premium price for him is not worth it for me. And sure, Zach Charbonnet, a guy who I've been telling you guys a lot to buy this offseason because I genuinely believe you are going to see one of two outcomes happen. One, Ken Walker leaves in free agency and you get Zach Charbonnet as the starter on a high-powered playoff Seattle Seahawks offense. Or two, Ken Walker does extend with Seattle, and then Zach Charbonnet is only 1 year away from potentially moving off the team and becoming a starter somewhere else, as he definitely has the talent level to do so, and as the former second-round draft capital to prove it. Now, all that being said, the final guy in this trade, Ricky Pearsall on the right side. If you know me, you know I am not a Ricky Pearsall fan for Dynasty. In real life, all the power to him. I'm sorry for his injuries and all the unfortunate circumstances that have gone into it. But quite frankly, I've just never been bought in from a Dynasty perspective. And my real main reasoning is I like to buy players that I have a significant reasoning why their value would increase during the next offseason so that I have more liquidity to play with in the market when it's time to retool my roster. Ricky Pearsall is not that guy, and he never was. He was an extremely old prospect. He was 25 years old going into his sophomore campaign this season. He's going to be 26 years old next year before he even takes a snap. Not only does that decrease your dynasty value because you're already aging out towards that age cliff where you lose a lot of dynasty value, but he's yet to put up a top 20 finish even in this career. And I know you're saying, it's only been 2 years. Doesn't matter. I haven't seen it in the first 2 years. A guy like Jordan Addison, before age 23, had given me a top 21 season and a top 23 season. Those are things that I can build on and see the path towards ascending dynasty value that could put him into a potential wide receiver 2, wide receiver 1 conversation someday. Pearsall, combined with the fact that he has to compete with George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey and Juwan Jennings and Brandon Ayuk, but it looks like he's going away. All those things just don't make me excited to invest in him as a dynasty asset. And if you're still a holder, I would still get him off your roster even for a second-round pick at this point if you can. Now, finally, the reasoning why I'm taking the left side here. I know I've been milking this trade specifically, but there's a lot of big pieces in here I wanted to touch on for your guys' insight. So you guys could get insight into what I view these players as. But Jonathan Taylor, he's probably going to finish as RB1, RB2 this season, maybe behind McCaffrey here, and they've got a tough stretch the rest of the season. But I personally view him as an asset at age 26 that has 2 to 3 really good years ahead of him on a Colts offense that looks retooled and ready to rip under Daniel Jones here. Outside that, A.J. Brown had a very slow start to the season here, but has bounced back nicely, is quietly back into the top 20 wide receiver rankings, and I do believe with everything that's gone on in Philadelphia this year, there is a high probability he gets moved on from this season, and that means at age 29, he gets to go somewhere else, get the utilization he's looking for, and be used as a true alpha for the remaining 2 to 3 years that he has playing at the highest level here. Courtland Sutton, again, just signed an extension this offseason, and although his production has dipped at times and Troy Franklin looks to be waiting in the wings, I still think he's going to be a flex-worthy wide receiver 3 for the next year or two after this extension. All to say, I'm comfortably leaning the left side. I think Jonathan Taylor is going to be a second-round startup pick, maybe a third-round startup pick this offseason, and rightfully so. He's been one of the most dominant forces of the season, and I just think this is selling far too low on guys that, regardless of the age cliff that everyone wants to talk about, still are going to give you 2 to 3 years of production ahead of you. And guys, if you know me, what sets me apart differently in the Dynasty community is I don't concern myself with building teams for the next 5 years, for the next 10 years, how all these people in the Dynasty community want to get so excited about. I genuinely believe that the best way to play Dynasty fantasy football is treat it like a 3-year redraft cycle. So if you're thinking longer than 3 years in advance, you're thinking way too hard. I want to win. I want guys that are going to give me production, which is typically in that mid-range or veteran level. And sure, of course it's nice to have the young, sexy rookie, but I don't always need it on my team to win. In fact, most times you don't even need rookies on your team to win, and I'd rather just take the proven production. That's why I tend to recycle most of my first-round picks every year and just ship them while I'm on the clock for a productive player that is in that middle range of age, 25 to 28. If I do that, I'm buying myself 2 to 3 years of production. My first-round picks replenish every offseason anyway, and I am staying hyper-competitive. I rarely miss the playoffs. Now, the next trade we have here is going to be also involving Emeka Egbuka, and I wanted to highlight 2 of them so that you guys can see different takes on this. On one side, we have Jackson Smith-Njigba, my current Dynasty wide receiver 1. If you are waiting for my Dynasty wide receiver rankings video, that will be coming out in the next couple days here. We've done quarterbacks, running backs, and tight ends so far, so go show those videos some love on this channel. But you've got Jackson Smith-Njigba, Dynasty wide receiver 1, and a 26 early second-round pick. On the other side, you have Ladd McConkey, Emeka Egbuka, and a late 26 first-round pick, from what I've been told. Personally, for me, guys, this is not enough for me to move off Jackson Smith-Njigba, and I know you're probably asking, what the hell would be enough to move off JSN? Let me tell you, it would take Drake London and 2 firsts. And I know you're going to tell me, that's insane. No one's going to pay that. Well, that's what it's going to take at this point for me to move him. I view Jackson Smith-Njigba about the same range as Jamar Chase, and I think this offseason, Drake London and 2 firsts for Jamar Chase in a second was a trade that I witnessed happen a lot, and I think I'd be asking for about the same thing for JSN these days. That all being considered here, I think that if there was other pieces on the right side, even potentially like a Garrett Wilson instead of a Ladd McConkey here, I would be slightly more tempted. And in fact, I would probably take it at that point. And especially if I was talking Garrett Wilson and Teteroa McMillan and a first, we would be smashing the right side. However, like I mentioned with the Egbuka rant already, and I'm not going to repeat it for you guys, I do view Ladd McConkey as a guy who absolutely has upside, but in a Chargers offense with a lot of mouths to feed right now, with Gadsden getting an emergence, Hampton coming back from an injury, and, obviously Quentin Johnston being somewhat relevant at times, Keenan Allen taking a lot of targets this year, drafting Trey Harris pretty early in last year's draft. There's just a lot of pieces on that Chargers offense that do make me think Ladd McConkey absolutely has solid wide receiver 2 upside, but I don't know if he's ever going to be the true alpha we want him to be, like Jackson Smith-Njigba has shown he can be. And that late first-round pick is obviously a nice added sweetener, but not enough to get me there. Now, if this was an early 26 first, I would probably be considering it a lot higher, because if that was potentially a Jordan Tyson or a Mekhi Lemon, or maybe even a Jeremiah Love, then that would move the needle a ton here. But for that reason alone, I am going to be taking the Jackson, Smith, and Jigba side, and it's going to be hard to get me to move Jackson, Smith, and Jigba this offseason. Finally, this is going to be the last trade we go through today, so make sure if you made it this far in the video to drop a like and comment each side of the trade you guys would take. This one is going to be Isaiah Bond, Quinshon Judkins, Stephon Diggs, Darius Slayton, and from what I'm being told is a early first projected to be a top 3 pick for Bucky Irving, Amarian Hampton, Devontae Adams, and T. Higgins. I'm not going to mince words with you guys and waste too much of your time. This is a smash for the bottom half of this trade. The Bucky Irving, Amarian Hampton, Devontae Adams, and T. Higgins side, I think, is personally getting a steal here. Now, I love Judkins as much as the next guy, and I hyped him up plenty in the first trade we talked about. I still think he has a ton of room to grow in the future as this Browns offense hopefully gets better as they sort their quarterback situation out and continue to add some other offensive weapons. And an early 26 first is great. Like I mentioned, there's a lot of guys in this class that have already started to get me excited. All that being considered, though, I always ask myself with draft picks, if I take that top 3 pick, what am I hoping they turn out to be? You're hoping they turn out to be Amarian Hampton. You're hoping they turn out to be Bucky Irving. I mean, if you've already got that, why are you re-rolling? Why are you trying to get a year younger or 2 years younger at the most? Because it's really not that important. You're thinking too much like the 10-year roadmap dynasty player and not enough like the dynasty player that actually wants to win championships and think in those 3-year succinct windows. On top of that, you're getting the wide receiver 6 right now in Devontae Adams, who I don't think is hanging it up unless him and Matt Stafford decide to win the Super Bowl this year. And if they do, great for them. They can go out on the high. But I personally think that they're going to run it back one more season here. Matt Stafford's having the best year of his career. Devontae Adams has 14 touchdowns through 12 weeks of playing. I mean, it's just absolutely incredible stats that they are putting up over there. Not to mention, I still don't think we've seen the best from Bucky Irving, who's dealt with an injury all season. Amarian Hampton, who caught fire for a second there and then dealt with an injury of his own and is still an ascending piece on a great Chargers offense under Jim Harbaugh that wants to run the football. And T. Higgins, who is not my favorite guy in Dynasty, and as you guys know, I continuously harp on T. Higgins. I think he's wildly overvalued. His best finish ever in fantasy is wide receiver 17 in a full point PPR format, yet people trade first round picks for him and he gets drafted in the 4th round of startups, yet he's never even broken the top 15. I personally just think he's overrated. You're seeing that again this season, as you can say, oh, Joe Burrow was out, he dealt with injury, whatever. Still not on pace to have a top 15 season again. So say what you want, but the man continues to not give you the numbers for the price you pay for him. I personally am a skipper of T. Higgins, but doesn't deny the fact that he's got a lot of market value and there's some folks that love him. And so you're getting another great piece in this trade that now you could either flip for more liquidity or hell, use as a wide receiver 2 option for the future. Regardless, I am easily taking the bottom half of this trade. Well, thank you guys so much for coming along today. This was just a quick trade video. We are coming at you again, like I mentioned, with the Dynasty wide receiver rankings coming up this week, as well as another episode of Trade Titans with a special guest that we will be posting by the end of the week here. Thank you guys so much for the continued support. Go ahead and hop in the Discord down below for your chance to submit some of these trades to get reviewed. I'm going to be back tomorrow with more trade reviews for you. And make sure you're checking me out across platforms on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and here on YouTube. Also, don't miss my daily live streams that are also streamed on Twitch, YouTube, and TikTok, where you can get your start-sit questions answered and all that good stuff. Tune into the radio show every Wednesday on San Diego Sports 760 Radio or on the iHeartRadio app. And thank you guys so much for coming along for the ride. Hope the holiday season is treating you well, and I will see you in the next one.